his downfall has been described as dizzying. We're talking about the king of Davos, the world's globalist-in-chief, Klaus Schwab, who, of course, ran the World Economic Forum for 55 years. He's 87. But he has been defenestrated in spectacular style, accused of inappropriate behaviour towards women, allegedly shoving his crotch into a female staffer's face. He's also accused of splurging $50 million on a luxury villa, and he ran up £836,000 in expenses that were not sufficiently linked to WEF activities. In other words, he's accused of misusing funds and inappropriate behaviour towards women, and he's been kicked out after more than half a century. He denies all these charges, but he's gone. Now, this is the guy who, after the pandemic, after the lockdowns, wrote The Great Reset about how the pandemic could remake global economies. What he was very keen on was not democracy, but kind of technocrats. You know, governments, leaders of countries getting together with businessmen and tycoons to work things out to the advantage of the elite. And those of us plebs casting our votes in our little democratic countries, we didn't really matter. What mattered to him were all the people who flew in on private jets to his ludicrous annual conflab, the World Economic Forum in the Swiss mountains in Davos. But he's gone. He's gone. Let's talk to social and political commentator James Melville. Hi, James.
Evening, Kevin. You well?
I'm very, very well. Your thoughts? Klaus Schwab has gone. He's gone in ignominy. Now, this guy, he's a German teacher from lowly beginnings. He brought together world leaders, national leaders, tycoons, businessmen. His idea of the way the world ought to run was that these important people, these elites, got together from the world of business and from the world of politics and worked out our lives for us, never mind democracies. That was his vision. He's gone. A lot of people will say, damn good thing too. Your thoughts?
Yeah, this is one of the big problems that's been creeping around, particularly since COVID, where there's a certain element of diktat and rule and agendas from these technocratic global institutions. You could argue there's aspects of the EU like this as well, where it starts off possibly for the right reasons, then bloats over time. And yet you've got our Prime Minister, the great Keir Starmer, who went on record and said, what does he prefer, Westminster or Davos? And he said, Davos, which is in keeping with, I think, what people think about him, that he's effectively a technocratic prime minister and struts around places like Davos trying to tell us plebs how to live our lives. But meanwhile, you've got motorcades and private jets where they're telling us plebs how to live and, mind our carbon emissions. It is a serious point, though, where I think, Schwab and the WF in some ways have been sort of pointed out to be slightly ludicrous in terms of their aims. But there is a serious point to this when you've got leaders like Keir Starmer who seem to prioritise swanning off to these jamborees of virtue when actually the aims of these organisations are actually the exact opposite. They're quite nefarious. And ultimately, there's a problem with democracy here. Because, Starmer, when his priority is things like Davos, and you've got these institutions that have been bloated up with WF and many others, this is part of the core problem. Until we get back to proper democracy, where politicians are serving the people in their own country rather than strutting off to Davos, nothing's going to change. And I think this has really emerged since COVID, where people are looking at this and saying, actually, this sort of technocratic institutional behaviour is unacceptable.
Yeah, there's a lot of conspiracy theory action that surrounds Davos with some justification. I mean, the extreme conspiracy theorists talk of, world leaders and the king all getting together in smoke-filled rooms to decide on the future of the world. I don't think it's quite as sinister as that. But definitely it's predicated on the principle that if world leaders, if elected national leaders get together with tycoons, businessmen, and ask them what they need and then facilitate them. They all do very well, and then they think in terms of trickle-down economics. But it's all about dividing everything up between senior or top politicians and top businessmen. And the people of the world, those of us who are just little pawns in the game, we feel rather left out. But don't forget, Tony Blair was very keen on Davos. Cameron was very keen. Our leaders for some time now have loved that conflab. And frankly, I'm not sure it was ever that healthy.
Well, it's not. I mean, it's almost like a PR machine, WEF, for various agendas. I mean, net zero is one of them, you know, which is going to be framed against farming in many ways as well. And, you know, the one thing that isn't a conspiracy theory connected to this is that there is this kind of global blob that's emerged through corporatism, whereby you, as you touched on, you get these leaders, you know, clinking their glasses and smoke and mirrors meetings to decide or set agendas that go back to domestic policy. And I don't think that should be the place of our politicians to get involved with that. We've got a number of major issues in the UK, and one of the major problems that we have with our politicians right now is politicians like Starmer seem more interested in strutting off to places like Davos, where it almost boosts their ego that they're on the global stage, rather than getting their hands dirty with the bread and butter stuff that we need to get fixed in this country. And this is, I think, why Nigel Farage and Reform are doing quite well, because they're talking about things that are hitting the zeitgeist in terms of concerns about the people. It is stuff that's happening in people's streets, in their businesses, in their communities that have felt forgotten about for decades now, and made worse when you get the likes of Blair and also Starmer, and to an extent Sunak was the same, where they spend more time going off to these unelected institutions to talk about saving the planet, when actually what they should be doing is saving the livelihoods of the people who pay their wages and also demand change within their own country.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Here's the thing. I agree with you. Here's the thing, James. Davos, the very existence of the annual Davos get-together, is now, because of the defenestration of Klaus Schwab, under a cloud. It's possible that they won't have any more Davoses. And do you know what difference that will make to the world? None whatsoever. So we don't need Davos. Nobody needs Davos. A few businessmen make a few quid out of it. A few politicians do rather nicely out of it. As for the rest of us, Davos could come, go, never happen again, and it wouldn't make a blind bit of difference. So forget it. If it's over, good.
Yeah, exactly. But it's also about the agendas that are set in these organizations. So you take something like net zero, which is a major sort of agenda-led, so all the papers that are produced, it's all there by the WEF, which then bleeds and nudges into what's happening domestically in governments. When actually what should be happening is the government should be ignoring all of that stuff and focusing what is right in front of them, and that's the concerns of the people in their own country. But Starmer is a perfect example of this. I mean, look at the amount of overseas trips he's had in his first year in power. I mean, it's quite nice to stay in a five-star hotel and fly private jet and then tell us plebs that we need to save the planet, when actually what he should be doing is properly listening to the concerns, of which there are many, of the communities he's supposed to serve, rather than giving off the impression that he is much more in thrall to these technocratic institutions.
Which is what he is, and now he's busy recognising Palestine. One day, James, Keir Starmer might think about us, you know, the citizens of Britain, but don't bet the farm on it. Good to talk to you again, James. Take care. See you soon.